YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. So I was just on Twitter, scrolling through. I'm always on Twitter, really. They're talking NFL or looking for NFL-related topics. And I see Daniel Jeremiah's tweet about his mock draft 1.0, and I'm thinking that's pretty interesting. I'm going to click on it. And right when I click it, I'm like, we reacted to this thing last year. Let me jump on, record me reacting to this before I actually see it. So I didn't see any of it yet. We're going to react to the mock draft. We do plenty of mock drafts here. I actually have one planned for early next week, most likely. I kind of have a rough draft of the mock draft. A mock draft of the mock draft, kind of ready, waiting, sleeping on it. Order's going to change based on the divisional round games. So, yeah, can't wait to update that next week and all that draft coverage throughout the offseason. So, hopefully you join us for all that. Playoff coverage, offseason coverage going on right now. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Here's our Twitter. We're constantly, a lot of coaching action going on, predicting a lot of things, talking about rumors. Surprisingly, Don Martindale got let go by the Ravens, discussing all those things. So, let's head over the mock draft. And this video is playing. Yeah, so I didn't look at it. I was about to look at it. Didn't look at it. I wanted to react to it as I was looking at it here. So, pretty cool. Daniel Jeremiah, pretty respected draft analyst at NFL Network. So, Jaguars have Evan Neal to number 1. Yeah, very realistic. Was thinking about that in mind. It's between pass rush or offensive tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Evan Neal had a pretty good national championship game. And our last mock draft was actually that day before the national championship game. A couple other tackles could sneak up to that one spot. Again, could be a pass rusher, one of the top pass rushers. It'll all depend, and we keep bringing this up, it'll all depend on what the Jaguars do at Cam Robinson. Obviously, it's possible to get better from Cam Robinson, maybe with a guy like Evan Neal, another Alabama guy. Will he be better right away? Can't really expect that, but pretty early in his career you expect him to be. Or do you just bring Cam Robinson back, who still has upside, still a young tackle, and then that way you can focus on other things. Maybe you can trade back, and then you kind of get, you kind of get more, it feels like, that way. So get better at tackle or stay solid at tackle, get better other spots, maybe load up on draft picks. So that would be the question with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we'll probably learn a bit with this first overall pick when it comes to free agency with Cam Robinson. So Evan Neal here, not really surprising. Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, not surprising at all. In this case, I would, if Evan Neal's off the board, I would expect the Lions to do this actually. It would be between Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Aiden Hutchinson, a Michigan guy too. I don't think that really plays a part. They're going to take the best player. Kayvon Thibodeaux, also a big-time player from Oregon. So I think it'd be one of those. I would lean towards Hutchinson as well. Lions definitely need pass rush. That pick makes sense to me. Texans, Kyle Hamilton. I've mocked this a few times. I think in this scenario, maybe the Texans would go Kayvon Thibodeaux. It depends on who they would hire as a coach. And that will that will factor in who's their defense coordinator. Do we stay with Lovie Smith? Is it a different scheme? They would consider Kayvon Thibodeaux because they need pass rush help. They got a couple young guys that stepped up, but they need pass rush help. But they also need safety help. It kind of felt like Justin Reed would be on his way out. In their current scheme, they'll value safeties, getting better safeties. A little bit of a split safety look. Got to really help over the top of the corners, get the deep halves a lot of the time. So Hamilton is a rare safety prospect. So that pick makes sense to me. I think worthy of the pick. I would mock, in this scenario, I'd probably mock Thibodeaux just because that pass rush so important, but safety play is so important. We're seeing it more and more, especially in the playoffs right now with some of these safeties taking over, and it looks like they're more important to big-time players over cornerbacks right now. It's pretty wild. So, yeah, I mean, having that rare, supposed-to-be sure thing type of safety, sure. Jets go Kayvon Thibodeaux there. That'd be interesting. Yeah, pair him with Carl Lawson. That's a possibility. I could see that. You don't see that mock too much. I haven't really thought about, I don't really have him there at that point, but yeah, I'd be banking on Lawson staying healthy, but that would be a pretty nasty edge rush duo there in that Jets defense. It'd be pretty nasty because they're thin on about everything right now. They can make way with their D-line though, especially with Lawson's back. So could they go? It's pick 4. Yeah, they have another pick here coming up, so we'll talk about that in a little bit here, though. But it's interesting because you just never really think about Thibodeaux being there at 4. So if being there at 4, maybe they're saying, hey, we can't really pass on him here. So definitely understand that. Giants go at Ikem Ekwonu, offensive tackle from NC State. I mean, I could see him in play at the first pick. We talked about a few offensive tackles could be in play there, as well as a couple pass rushers. Yeah, very talented tackle, very good in run blocking, has better athleticism than people give him credit for. And I haven't been reading what he's been saying here, kind of been giving my own thoughts. But yeah, that would make sense. The Giants get another tackle in there to pair with Andrew Thomas. They definitely need help tackle position. I really think, and it's not all about need. I've been preaching that for years. It's not all about need, and the Giants' biggest needs are quarterback and tackle, but they happen to be sitting in the part of the draft where their needs also happen to be probably worthy of those picks. And I think they're a quarterback and maybe a tackle and then an interior offensive lineman away from being worst to NFC East, maybe first. I really think so. Possibly, so that pick makes sense to me. Panthers, Ahmad Gardner, first cornerback off the board. Maybe a little surprising, but don't really disagree with it because he played like the best corner. Stingley missed a portion, and he maybe hasn't been as good as his freshman year. I would still bank on him going first, but Ahmad Gardner played great this year. He played so well against Alabama in the national championship game. Alabama usually rolls on those teams offensively, but they weren't able to. And if you watch the game, the number one reason, it was a team effort. Guys like Sanders were stepping up, but it was obvious. It was because Cincinnati had NFL corners and they were taking away the pass, especially on the outside from Alabama. And it's just it's a big game for the stock of Ahmad Sauce Gardner here. So Panthers though, so my point there was it would shock probably other people right now, but it wouldn't completely shock me if he was the first corner taken. People expect Stingley, but yeah, Panthers probably. I don't really see them going corner. I guess it depends on what they do in free agency, but remember they drafted J.C. Horn. They wanted to go more towards man coverage. Gardner, pretty familiar with everything. I kind of liked him, and he's good in cover two. Cover two usually, especially in college, corners only got the flats, but the real good corners, smart corners in cover two will kind of follow their receiver downfield and only leave if somebody comes into their flat. Very smart corner. But the Panthers, yeah, J.C. Horn, now they have free agents, Gilmore and Dante Jackson. I think they plan on bringing one back, and I think that's going to be Gilmore. And they also trade for C.J. Henderson. So if I mock this in a video, the comments would be full of Panthers don't need a corner. And I don't like that comment because it's not all about need. But at the same time, there are some positions for teams that I just really don't. I'm not going to rule out. Definitely not guaranteeing anything. You cannot guarantee anything when it comes to the draft, maybe outside the first pick. But I don't know if I see that one. I don't know if I see it. But I like that he put Gardner high up because he had an incredible year. Giants go Devin Lloyd, so the Giants don't go quarterback with either of these picks. They could use a linebacker. We talked about it. Could Blake Martinez be a surprise cut maybe to save some space? Devin Lloyd's a beast. Yeah, I was leaning towards him as linebacker 1. I've been moving him up my mocks every time I've done him if you've watched. But yeah, in this next one I'm getting ready for, I was moving up even further. Christian Harris, the Alabama linebacker, I was moving up even further. Jacoby Dean is fantastic. He's so scheme specific, it feels like. Devin Lloyd is that type of linebacker, that's taken over today's NFL. It can be a little bit of a mixture of some of these guys, that are really taking over. So, yeah, I'd like him with the Giants. I don't like the Giants passing on a quarterback in this scenario, especially with their choosing of any one. I would hope they handled something in free agency, but they don't have a lot of cap. So in this scenario, I don't think they would. I think they'd be relying on Daniel Jones here. Falcons go Treylon Burks 8, so that's pretty high. We were kind of starting to see him a little high up here, and then it kind of went away a little bit. Yeah, just a rare type of guy here. Maybe they can get, flashbacks to Julio Jones, a little bit different. He's got the big body. He can run. He can get open, contest the catch. That'll be compared to Julio Jones. But, yeah, he'll play in the slot a little bit. He'll play in the Treylon Burks, that is. And then maybe trading Calvin Ridley, a receiver, is a pretty big need. So I actually could see that. His name kind of went quiet a little bit because Arkansas was top-tier team at one point, and then they started kind of going downhill, playing better teams. The offense would disappear maybe a little bit, so that's probably why. And then maybe because the big body receivers aren't really working anymore. They're kind of rare. They are, but they're kind of rare. But he's a different animal, So I would be good with this with the Falcons. It's kind of a shame that they got to focus on receiver again, though, right after taking a tight end that can also play receiver and then having a pretty good group, but Ridley wants to be out possibly. So it's kind of a shame, but it may have to be done. Broncos, first team taking a quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I've heard that Kenny Pickett right now is number 1 on most boards at the way too early stage, so I was moving him up along with Matt Corral because Matt Corral actually, in a way, feels like the safest quarterback. Why I could worry he's kind of risky is because, he just got hurt, but you can't really say, there's no way you can say he's like injury prone. The guy's going to get hurt, but his running style and going into the NFL contact, maybe you worry. So that's where he's risky. But in terms of his skill set, Matt Corral, that is, I think he's one of the safer quarterbacks and not so safe of a class. But Kenny Pickett is most people's view as the safest one and maybe at the top. So the Broncos go that route. And then, I think people will question the gloves on Kenny Pickett. It might sound crazy to some people, but I think people will question it. And the Broncos had no problem with Teddy Bridgewater. They want to get better from that, but he, obviously he wore gloves as well. So Broncos get their future quarterback there. The only problem with that is, do they want to win now? The rest of the roster could say win now. They could get a coach to help win now, and then go with a rookie quarterback, that, it would depend on what they do in the early offseason, free agency, trade, any of those moves. So Kenny Pickett, first quarterback off the board in this mock. The Broncos, makes sense to me. Trent McDuffie, was kind of like a borderline guy for me right now because does he have kind of the strength, the physicality, I suppose? He kind of does. He's a little scrappy, but playmaking corner from Washington. The Washington Huskies keep pumping out these types of guys, so the Jets grab him. So Ahmad Gardner and Trent McDuffie go before Derek Stingley Jr., which is a little surprising. This McDuffie up at 10 is a little surprising, but they keep pumping out these types of guys, and he seems to be, a good playmaker there at the cornerback position. The Jets do need a corner pretty bad, so interesting. And there's the other quarterback I was talking about. Yeah, I was leaning towards Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, maybe Sam Howell, the top 3 for me coming off. In terms of the skill set, Matt Corral it actually might feel like the safest one to me because he's got a strong arm. He can throw on the run. He has the athleticism. He can run. It kind of is the safe pick for today's era. Again, if he's running too much and the way he runs at the college level, you worry a little bit. Maybe he gets beat up in the NFL level. He doesn't have the biggest frame, I guess. But I like him. I like the fit for Washington. Kind of can bring a little bit of what they liked in Heineke, but a lot more upside as well, more accuracy, especially in tough situations. Washington's offensive line surprisingly played all right this year too. I like that pick. I like that mocked pick there. And then my Vikings get Derek Stingley Jr. So the third corner taken is most people's number 1 here. Goes to the Vikings. Well, I know if Mike Zimmer was still there, he'd be pounding the table here, but it's not going to be Mike Zimmer, obviously. They're looking for a new coach. But the Vikings do need corners. Patrick Peterson was solid, but he had a 1-year deal, free agent. He could come back. They're tight on cap space. And they moved on from Bashad Breeland, and then Dantzler's their next guy up, and he really struggled this year. Kind of worry about the speed a little bit. So they do need a corner pretty bad. There's other things they could use, but in a situation like this, if Stingley was there, I don't really think it matters on who's at the GM position and the coach position. I think they may go that route. So interesting that Stingley's the third one off the board. I don't think it's unrealistic that he drops to 12. I don't see him being the third corner off the board, but it's a pretty early stage. Trayvon Walker, who actually was just moving into my first after he had declared from Georgia. Yeah, he is listed edge. That's kind of the question. Let's see if he puts this here too. Things up to our system. Yeah, talk about the system a little bit. Limited pass rush production. Yeah, because it's the question of if he's an edge or if he's an interior defensive lineman. That's kind of the question. The Browns like the power, kind of like the power rushers. They seem to like those types. And Myles Garrett has a bit of everything, obviously. But I can see him playing 4-3-N for the Browns. There's some teams I can see him playing 4-3-N, not too many. I almost want to list him as a D lineman, 3-4 end. 3 technique. Maybe the Browns play him even inside. He's kind of, He's kind of that tweener. You know, like 5 years ago even, he'd be a 4-3 defensive back. He'd be an edge rusher, no doubt. What was he weigh? The top of my head doesn't have the weight on here. 275. And that is way 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, way too undersized for an interior defensive lineman or even a 3-4 end. Now the game is changing big time. You know, now he definitely can fit that. But that's why he's kind of like, where do we put this guy? He's extremely talented. He's a disruptor for sure on that big time Georgia defense. That Georgia defense is full of so many star players. You know, everyone feeding off each other. So it is tricky to tell sometimes, but they got some good ball players there. So that'd be interesting. If the Browns took him at 13, be interesting to see how he fits. Raven is a surprising one. Trevor Penning, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Yeah, I've been hearing his name thrown out there, a lot of upside. Was not expecting him at 14. You know, the Ravens could use a tackle. They're pretty picky on the type of offensive lineman. They want those power blockers, obviously. The physical man blockers, man scheme, I should say. So I could see that. You know, it's in terms of a fit. It's pretty early though, but it's not the biggest name. It's not a guy I caught a lot watching this year. So maybe once the evaluations start coming out, once we watch more guys, once they get to combine pro days, maybe he boosts up this high. It's pretty early though. George Karlaftis, the Eagles. I've mocked this quite a few times. If you guys have been watching. Because I do like the fit. It's an Eagles type of defensive end, and this is more of his range. A lot of people have been mocking him well inside the top 10. I thought he was lacking a little bit of speed to go up there, but he's very talented. See if he says, he can play inside as well. Took on a lot of double teams this year. But the Eagles, Brandon Graham injured this year, kind of. Is he closing on the end of his career? Derek Barnett's a free agent. They want to be able to get these guys to finish sacks more as well. So bringing a guy like George Karlaftis can afford to do it with the multiple picks they have. Here's another one, Drake London. So another receiver here, and they could use maybe more of that longer receiver. But the longer receivers they try to give it our J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Those types of guys end up being bust these days. It's because that's kind of what they are, contested catch guy. But Drake London is a long guy that can do a bit of everything. I mean, USC throw him screen passes, quick slants, and I mean quick, 2 steps and got the ball, so he's that type of guy too. So that's pretty impressive that he's a versatile, lengthy receiver here. So, Eagles get Devontae Smith some help there. Chargers go offensive lineman Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan there. I had him I snuck him in the back end of my first round a couple mocks ago, I'd say. The Chargers be looking for a right tackle. We talked about it in a video yesterday, somewhat surprise cuts. Brian Balaga could be one, constantly injured, could potentially save a good amount of money. So they're going to need a right tackle here, so that would be a pretty good option. It's a little early, so it's interesting. Some tackles here up at the top part. We got a Northern Iowa guy, a Central Michigan guy. You never know. You had Eric Fisher coming from Central Michigan as well. That he went first, so never know. Saints go Garrett Wilson. The Saints would love to have a guy like this. Receiver play was pretty bad this year for the Saints. They're going to get Michael Thomas back unless they try to trade him. Some talk about that, but either way, they could definitely use another receiver. So now you got a do-it-all type guy like Garrett Wilson, downfield, underneath, very good after the catch, great speed, quickness. Saints would love to have a guy. If he's there, that pick makes sense to me. But some quarterbacks still hanging around. Only 2. There's some quarterbacks I'd really like for the Saints. There's some of these quarterbacks I really hope go to the Saints. Guy like Sam Howell, Malik Willis. I really like Sam Howell for them, and I think they would really like Sam Howell. I'd be very happy with the future success there, in my opinion. But tough to pass on a guy like Garrett Wilson. Eagles go offensive lineman. So people, maybe fans are like, do we need an offensive lineman? We kind of need. He had him going edge and receiver. Where's the linebacker? Where could we go corner maybe? They go Kenyon Green, who very solid guard. Got some reps at tackle, but I think he's definitely a guard. So the Eagles are pretty good at making sure they kind of get that next guy up and kind of getting the offensive line ready. The offensive line seems to always be good. So there's Charles Cross. I was surprised how late he has Charles Cross. I think this is, I talked about in the beginning of the video, there's some guys in contention for that first pick or towards the top that play tackle. And in mind, I had a couple of guys he had at the top, obviously, we talked about, and then Charles Cross. who's very long and athletic, obviously, from Mississippi State. Steelers would be pounding the table for this guy if he was there, because they need tackle help for sure. And this would be a great pick. I don't know if he drops this far, though. I really don't. So we'll see. Patriots go Jordan Davis, the nose tackle from Georgia. So he dropped a little bit. And in the mocks leading up to the draft, I can see a pretty big range from Jordan Davis. I could see people mocking him maybe around, maybe close to 10, even inside the top 10. Close to 10, though. Maybe around, 14, 15 in that range. And back here, maybe I could see people having him, even maybe early second, because where do you take a nose tackle? Where do you value it? But he's such a rare type, very good one, talented one here that can stop the run and disrupt, the pocket, obviously, and pass on passing plays. Patriots, it'll be interesting. They brought Godshaw in this last free agency for nose tackle, so it'll be interesting. But they just need to get better there, though. They got to stop the run at a better level here, so could see it there. Some good value. Raiders go Chris Olave, another Ohio State receiver here. Pretty good downfield, going across the field. Seen some comparisons to Terry McLaurin. The Raiders definitely could use another receiver, even though they stepped up. Renfro, Zay Jones, those guys stepped up later in the year. Could Raiders go corner? They can go multiple different spots. But Olave here at 22. Cardinals go David Ajabo, the edge rusher from Michigan here. Yeah. Chandler Jones going to be a free agent. They were hesitant to give him that extension before. So does anything change now? That's the question. So they definitely could use somebody else to get after the quarterback here. Chandler Jones did start the year off a little stronger than he ended. Ajabo is a very good pass rusher. Great athlete, ton of upside, has some pass rush moves. The problem with him and why he might be another rangy guy, and when you see mocks leading up to the draft, is he did not have a lot of involvement in the run game, early downs off the field. So that's something he has to work on. He's going to need, he says it right here. He's going to need some time and reps to improve against the run. Yeah, the Michigan a lot of time actually would have him off the field on early downs and have him on for pass rush downs, which those guys are still valuable. It's a passing league. Guys that get after the quarterback, valuable, especially the athletic ones with a ton of upside that already has a collection of moves. So that's why those things about Ajabo, I mean, we talk about him in the first overall pick category. The pass rush traits, productivity, upside, athleticism. We can talk about him in terms of the first overall pick, but because of his lack of involvement in stopping the run, because he kind of is a liability at the moment, stopping the run, that drops him down. So they would question some teams. Teams like, I don't care. I want this freak pass rusher. We'll use him on passing downs. Passing downs a lot of downs these days, especially third and fourth down for sure. Maybe even second. Maybe even first and 10, a lot of teams passing. And some teams are like, God, where do we draft the guy that we're not going to use on first and second, or a guy we have to force to use then to get him better at the run? He's not going to be good. Do we take that guy in the first round? So it's going to be pretty split. So this may be more of his range because of that. He's a very intriguing prospect for the reasons I just explained. But I like the 3-4 fit with the Cardinals there. I like the fit. The Cardinals would need to make sure they help stop the run, though, with other additions here, because they do need help in that category. So that would be a key maybe before this point in the free agency, suppose. That's an interesting one there. Cowboys taking Nakobe Dean, a linebacker from Georgia. So he slipped a little further than maybe we would think. He's a very talented guy. I did talk about, when we were talking about Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean might be kind of scheme specific there. Kind of a blitzing inside linebacker, can do a bit of everything. He's all over the field. But yeah, do they pair him? Because Van Der Esch a free agent. It felt like, especially in that Niners game, the Cowboys needed more linebacker help. Micah Parsons had to carry a lot because he's that edge rusher. He's the guy getting after the quarterback. If he's that linebacker, he's the guy making the stops. But if he's that edge rusher, the off-the-ball linebackers are struggling a little bit. Van Der Esch made a couple good plays. He was on his ass a lot, though, I noticed. A little harsh. He's on the ground a little bit. So getting another guy in there to help Parsons play edge more often, where he was great. He was great at both, really. That would make sense to me. Yeah, they would. Cowboys are all about best available. Jerry's all about the best available here. Nakobe Dean, 24th overall, best available. Tyler Linderbaum, I'm glad he put him down here at 25. Great player. I think he's going to be a great center. A lot of people have been mocking him top 10, even close to 5. I'm like, Do you take a center that high? And that's why I've not been mocking him up there. I don't take a center that high. I even question taking a center in the first round. We got a good one here, though. If you're confident about him playing guard, you better be pretty damn confident, though. I know center and guard seem to be pretty interchangeable these days. But center is such I think it's risky taking a center early in the first round because it's not a position that's going to make or break your team. Of course, you want it to be a lot better always to maybe complete your offensive line, but he better be damn good and a sure thing if you're going to take him that early. But you got a pretty good one here. I do think he has the upside of playing guard. I do worry about because Garrett Bradbury at the Vikings, he's good run blocking, struggles pass protection, and he was supposed to be a sure thing with a center. So a little risky taking the centers in the first, in my opinion. Look at how Creed Humphrey worked out. Don't need to use a first round pick there. So, but the Bengals do want to complete that offensive line. You get a pretty good offensive lineman here. I can see this pick, for sure. Falele from Minnesota. Yeah, I actually saw a little bit on him recently. Pretty impressive. I like how he gets downfield and makes blocks. I want to see if he says that here. It doesn't look like he's a giant, 6'9", 380. I didn't realize he was that big. Shocked how athletic he plays that size. Yeah, I noticed some athleticism as well. He kind of gets to that next level of the field. The Dolphins still looking for offensive line help, unfortunately. Eichenberg should be stepping up for them, though. He kind of did there at the end, so we'll see what they can do. They'll try to try to build around Tua, so focusing on offensive line makes sense. Kyler Gordon, another Washington corner here, so we haven't seen his name pop up. So, Bills grabbed another one here. So there's a long list of corners that I like. I mean, I haven't watched really any film yet, so we're still before that, the final rankings and things. But some other corners they could go with here, but they grab, these Washington corners looking pretty good. And Washington was underwhelming, kind of bad this year, but defense was all right. Defense was solid, and they always got the players in the secondary, though. So Bills pair a guy with Tre'Davious White there. Titans, Quay Walker, so another linebacker from Georgia here. Linebackers just full of those guys. I guess what will happen with Zach Cunningham, what will they do with his contract? Rashaan Evans is probably gone. Jayon Brown's a free agent, so if they went linebacker, probably because Jayon Brown's gone, perhaps because or Cunningham, or maybe both. But they had a Georgia linebacker from last year, Monty Rice, which we didn't see much of. But I do like David Long Jr., who they have at linebacker from West Virginia a couple years ago. I like how he's playing. So right this second, it looks like they're surely okay at linebacker, but maybe a little misleading for the reasons I explained, that you could be moving on from some guys. So Tennessee goes with another Georgia player, another Georgia linebacker there. Possibility, and not too many needs. I think they need a receiver pretty bad, actually. But other than that, maybe more offensive linemen, because where they're heading, Luan took a step down this year, keeps getting injured. So could use another guy there as well, but a pretty balanced team. Why they're still left, probably. Lions go Malik Willis. So they go the quarterback from Liberty. A lot of upside with Malik Willis. A lot of upside, incredible arm talent down the field. Incredible mobility, athleticism, makes people miss, can run through people as well. So no concern about the arm strength and the athleticism, the mobility, the escapability. No concern about that. Just a little inconsistent on some throws, especially against the better competition whenever he did play them, which was kind of rare. But I think it was due to, not seeing guys kind of maybe got baited a little bit. Mainly not being able to understand coverages, read coverages, which he's only a kid. He's in college. So sometimes it's okay, but at this point, you're a quarterback in the NFL. You're trying to be a first-round pick. You would like them to be able to read that a little better, I suppose. It needs to clean up decision-making and accuracy, yeah. But worth it for the Lions here at 29. I'm wondering where Sam Howell is. We're looking for Carson Strong as well. Carson Strong's mobility is the concern in his knee situation. I'm looking for Sam Howell, though. Jameson Williams slips through a little bit because he tore his ACL, unfortunately, in the national championship game, but super talented. The Chiefs would definitely take that risk on him. Maybe a team like the Titans, they usually take the risk on those guys. So that would make sense there. Maybe he doesn't get by the Titans at that point. I could see definitely the Chiefs, though, add more speed, and it would be dangerous. They needed somebody else like this. I think they'd be, because there's so much focus on Tyreek Hill at the receiver from the receiver standpoint there. This would help them a lot. Yeah, would they pass on him? Jahan Dodson, our receiver, kind of a small, scrappy, super fast guy, but he got underrated with attacking the ball. He can attack the ball. They're the Buccaneers. Yeah, good Antonio Brown replacement here. This is a very good Antonio Brown replacement. That kind of makes sense to me. For the Buccaneers for sure. Packers, Devontae White, another Georgia Bulldog, a defensive tackle here. Yeah, it's just so hard to tell these guys because they're all feasting off each other, but they're all very talented guys. We were expecting them to be talented too when they got to Georgia. But yeah, could use some more help in the defensive line. Kenny Clark moves around a bit, so that's good. Get another guy in there with him could help him out. They could look offensive line because they're been a little beat up and they're always good at retooling before it's too late. The Packers, that is. So that would make sense. So interesting mock. Yeah, why? Maybe not a little surprising, but you don't see that name a lot. Williams to the Chiefs, Willis to the Lions. No Sam Howell, no Carson Strong, which I'm starting to believe because the different operations on his knee or concerns about his knee is serious and the lack of mobility. But he could be like long shot, but like a Matt Stafford type player there. So somebody could fall in love with that. Yeah, missing some corners here. There's some corner. Roger McCreary's a surprising one. The Auburn corner not in here. Very good in man coverage. You don't want to have to teach man at the next level. Coaches don't want to do it. If you can't, it's not really a coachable thing. Too. It's either you can cover one-on-one or you can't. He's so good at it. I believe he'd be talented in zone. I'm surprised not to see him in here. Christian Harris, the Alabama linebacker. I've heard some good reports on him, and based on me watching him more and watching him in the national championship game, I'm moving Christian Harris in the first round, so he didn't have him here. Top of my head, it's tough to remember, guys. There's some good receivers still left. We talked about Howell and Carson Strong still available. Yeah. No tight ends. I haven't had tight ends or running backs as well. One safety. Yeah. So I like some of these fits, though. I like some of these fits in here. So definitely interesting. So definitely some guys on our radar. Now, a lot of Georgia Bulldogs, obviously, which shouldn't be that much of a surprise. I talked about Ajabo, and I was talking about him. That's one of the more intriguing prospects of the draft where I was talking about. So good. The pass rush ability says easily top 10, but because he's off the field, limited in run support, not so good in it, drops it down a little bit, but so much upside there. Yeah, I was surprised by Cross dropping to there. Interesting, yeah. Derek Stingley being the third corner, a little surprising. 2 Washington corners. I liked Matt Corral to Washington football team. Kenny Pickett to the Broncos. Interesting. Treylon Burks to the Falcons. Interesting. I like Devin Lloyd being the first linebacker. I think he's the best linebacker at this moment. Yeah, I like the scenario, too, having an offensive lineman first and then Hutchinson second. I was leaning towards that in my rough draft, my next mock draft, which will be early next week. Waiting on to see who what the order is because it'll probably change here with the divisional round, but we'll see. But yeah, that's something I want to jump in here and do. I just came across that on Twitter, so hopefully you guys, and we did it last year too for his first one, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll have full NFL draft content, off-season content already underway, full free agency coverage, full playoff coverage underway, of course. So join us for all that. Like, subscribe to notifications on any important link you're looking for, pinned in the comments. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.